Dr. Henderson is a board-certified functional medicine pharmacist and founder of Your Own Wellbeing, providing life and health coaching services to Christian women seeking inside-out transformation. Working in a hormone replacement practice for 7 years led her to her passion of helping women implement lasting change in their lifestyles and daily habits. What I love about Catherine, not only that she looks hot today, but that she is really purpose driven. I love how she, really, her niche is working with women of faith, and it just shines through her work. I see everything that she does, and I really, admire that, you're putting Bible quotes out there. You're just like authentically yourself when you're putting those things out. And I really admire that about you. So I'm excited to learn more about your topic today, which is on using a mind map. Somebody mentioned that yesterday. I think it was Bridget. Somebody had mentioned it, but so yeah, just give us a little bit of background about yourself, your journey, what brought you here.
For sure. Well, I have to give a shout out first to Danielle Paradin. I worked with her on my closet, and that's what
why you're looking hot.
Brings the whole vibe. Yes, I feel like I really worked on that embodiment piece and all of that. So she was fantastic. That was my birthday gift for my husband. So anyway, so thanks for the compliments. But
I love that.
So
go Danielle.
Yeah.
And you.
So, anyway, so some background on, I guess, where I came from and how I ended up in this situation with my business and everything. I'll tell you. So working in hormones for 7 years, I'm not one of those pharmacists that has like this sob story about how bad pharmacy was to me. I've always had some really good work environments, but I always wanted to own a pharmacy. And I guess divinely so, that never happened for me for a lot. Like literally, I tried so hard and it just never happened. People would say they wanted to sell, then they didn't want to sell, and they kept dragging me along. This was the whole thing. So I think it was meant to be though. So working in hormone replacement for 7 years, I got to have so many conversations with women over and over and over. And actually I would kind of get in trouble sometimes because I would get on the phone with women and we were supposed to be just, like, this is your prescription, get your medicine, whatever. And then it would turn into a counseling session. I'd be on the phone, for like 30 minutes, an hour, something like that. And what I realized was that I really just wanted to go deeper. Like they would tell me about their struggles with libido and their weight and relationships and their sleep, all these things that they would be struggling with. And they really wanted the hormones to like fix it all. And yet, they would come back after they'd started the hormones and be like, well, everything's, not better. Like, like some things are better, but there was all this other stuff going on under the surface that I really wanted to dive into. Yeah. So that was really when I realized like, okay, my gift is actually having these conversations about their lifestyle, their emotional management, all of that stuff. So that's how I got into coaching. And, some things happened along the way that made it easier for me to jump in and take that direction. But that's how I got into that. And so now I've built a program that really does fit all of my gifts, and I love it. Mm-hmm. So the reason that I said though, that what Nicole just talked about fits right into what I'm going to talk about is because Nicole brought up a topic of being willing. Right? Being willing to experience any emotion, being willing to experience the disappointment, being willing to experience the failure. Yeah. Right. And so what I want to do today is give us a framework for how do we experience that in a way that helps us to move forward. So everybody good with that?
Awesome. Oh, okay. We're ready. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So what we're going to talk about today is overwhelm. So I want you, I'll explain to you what overwhelm looks like for me, but if a couple of you will type into the chat, how does overwhelm show up for you? Like, how do you recognize overwhelm in your life? Like, what actions do you take when you feel overwhelmed, or what does it feel like in your body? And Rachel's already says you freeze. Yeah. And that's a really common one, almost like that shutdown, right?
I get angry and frustrated and irritable like a true wood would.
I
get irritable about elements yesterday. I'm like, it feels like this to me. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
just, yeah, too
Yeah.
much. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know a lot about the elements. Rachel, are you water? Because I noticed that you said
He
freeze,
is.
and I don't, or really don't know that. But anyway, okay. Frantic action, same. Want to give up. So some of us freeze, we shut down. For me, let's see, banging head against wall feeling, waste my time. Ooh, avoiding. That's a really good one. Okay, so you guys, you get it right. So whatever you just typed in there, whatever you know that you feel when you get overwhelmed, that needs to be something that you recognize, because so often we're not really aware of our thoughts and our feelings, right? So I want you to recognize those actions first, and that needs to be your trigger to like, hold up, I need to stop here and take some time to evaluate. And I think there's the kind of overwhelm that you feel sometimes in the moment where it's like you can't stop. Let's just say you're in the pharmacy and you've got 3 lines holding and 2 people at the window and 3 people out front. You can't exactly stop and do a mind map then. Okay. So you've got to have multiple tools in your toolbox. This is one, but this is, that's a time for like a good breathing exercise or something. But for the times when you've got the overwhelm, and for me, it shows up irritability. I get real blamey to other people in my life, like everything's everybody else's fault, and that's when I recognize like, well, there might be a little bit of overwhelm happening here. So for me, what I do is a mind map. And you can do this anywhere. You can write it on a napkin. I've done it sitting in my car at soccer practice. Like, it's not something that's super complicated, or you like have to meditate or get in a dark room or anything like that. You can do it wherever you are. You just need a piece of paper. And the thing that I will say about this too is it's so simple. And we need to recognize that there are so many simple things we have at our disposal. It doesn't have to be complicated to work, right? So you take a piece of paper, and in the middle of your paper, you write whatever the emotion is. So you can use this for any emotion. So we're going to use it today discussing overwhelm, but you can use it if you're feeling angry. You can use it if you're feeling sad, disappointed, whatever. So that's why I said it's such a useful tool to add on to what Nicole just shared. When you're feeling that disappointment, you can put that in the middle. So you just write it in the middle and you circle it. And then you draw lines out from the middle and you write down every single thing that's contributing to that emotion. Okay. So for overwhelm, it could be, your calendar's too full. You've got, 5 different events and 4 days to fit them in. It could be you're feeling overwhelmed because you've got a project and there are so many steps and you just can't see the rational next step. Usually it's just this swirling. Overwhelm is this swirling of all these different things that are on your to-do list. And we go to that shut down, irritable, blame other people, all of those things. Okay. Now you've got it on paper. And for me, okay, let me tell you, I kind of skipped a step here, because one of the things that I used to do is journal, and I would journal like stream of consciousness almost, just piece of paper and just write everything out, just get it out of my head. And I think that was a useful way of releasing some of that tension, releasing some of those thoughts, just getting them out of my head and slowing down long enough to think about them. But if you will shift to this method, it'll give you a framework for how to move forward, how to get something. Yes, Nicole says I call those brain dumps. Yes, I love it's a brain dump, but it's a brain dump either way. So if you use this technique, then there's some structure involved that helps it be, I think, a little bit more effective. So now you've got everything down. And the next thing that I do is I just stop and I recognize like, whoa, I'm very Southern. Bless your heart. Like I tell myself, bless your heart, honey. Of course you feel overwhelmed, you poor thing, and I just recognize myself, and you should recognize yourself in your own way. You can hear my voice tell you, bless your heart, if you want to. But you just stop and recognize, of course I feel this way. This is normal. Anyone else in my shoes would feel this way with this many things on their plate, because it's hard to feel a negative emotion, but then we make it even harder when we're like bullying ourselves about it, right? When we're like, oh, I shouldn't feel this way. Like everybody else is is making it through this, or everybody else has it hard, or like we tell ourselves all these stories. Why do I feel this way when everything else is so great, or whatever? We make all these stories up, and we beat ourselves up for the way that we feel. So just stop right there. And you can actually use another tool that's been mentioned this weekend. Tapping would be really useful at this point. So now you've got everything written down and organized. Yeah, what you want to say?
So I feel like I'm in school. I'm like, wait, there is another Eden energy medicine technique that I wanted to show for self-compassion, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
I would fit in really well. So did I mention this yesterday where you like tap around your bra line? So like Angela came and, we were doing tapping and the hand holds. So if you tap right underneath your bra line, that's the self-compassion Eden energy medicine. So if you're like overwhelmed or feeling these emotions, that's something that you can do. Also, like just tapping around the stomach meridian can help too. The worry points can help. So I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, no, I love that, because that's the point at which, like, anything that works there, anything that's your tool, I am a spiritual person. So for me, this is a point at which to stop and pray and just say, hey, like, these are
Bless
the
your
things that
heart.
yes, yes. These are the things on my mind. This is where I go for help. So any tool there, before you even move forward, you've got to just stop and recognize it and feel it. And the other thing about this that's super beneficial, I think, is a lot of times in entrepreneur culture, there is a culture of toxic positivity, right? Of like, you can only put out there your success, and everyone seems like they're winning, and everyone seems, and I love positivity. I love to be positive. I'm a very positive person, but it can be very difficult when you're on that road as an entrepreneur and you think, because this is the culture you see, that there is something wrong with me. I'm extra special broken because nobody else is having a hard time with this, right? So just allowing yourself to have those, being willing to feel that negative emotion and not just covering up, not too quickly trying to move out of it, not too quickly trying to say, I don't want to feel this way, so I'm going to just change my thoughts and be positive about it. That's not a real solution.
Well, a lot of people too, just to also talk about things that we do to kind of numb out. It could be overworking, like, oh, I just need to work harder. So like, I'm going to push myself even more. Like that was my go-to. Like, oh, well, if I'm not getting it and like, I'm going to keep pushing. And so I think, that's also ingrained, especially as pharmacists, like, oh, do more, do more, do more, because we're so used to doing it all. So just another thing that to keep in mind, like, are you overworking or keeping yourself busy to numb out those feelings? That could be true too.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, like Nicole mentioned, the thought model, the circumstance, thought, feeling, action, result. And for so many of us, we do want to just jump into that action. I'm not getting the result I want here. I don't like the way I feel, whatever. So it must be my actions that are wrong. So let me just change all the actions. Let me add more actions. Let me this, that, or the other. And it's just not effective. You can be doing different actions and feeling the same way, and you're going to end up with, the same result. And it just doesn't work. If it would work, we would do it, but it doesn't. So anyway, okay. So once you've done this, you've felt the feeling, you've experienced it, you've been willing, and that's another thing that you can do there is say, okay, I'm willing to feel this. I'm okay. I can feel this emotion and actually be okay. This emotion cannot actually hurt me. It doesn't feel great, but it's just a part of life, and it's fine. I'm okay. Then, only then, once you've done that process, is a time where you can look and say, okay, now I can look at my list with different eyes, with new eyes, and say, okay, hold up, there's actually a few things we can do here. And so when you look at your list, you might see some things where it's like, hey, I can ask for help. I feel so overwhelmed. I could ask for help here. Hey, there's some things just need to go to the back burner. There's some things I can take off of this list. You might see that there's like one big thing that you've just been avoiding. And so all of the other little things feel overwhelming because your brain is, so much space is being taken up in your mind by that big thing that you're avoiding. And so you've got like this background program
It's an energy
running.
leak. Yeah.
An energy leak. Is that how you
That's what I
describe
call it? Yeah. It's like this thing that's just kind of like, so that's what happens when you like have these open loops that are not completed. So like, oh, I need to reach out to that person, but like I'm avoiding them because whatever reason, that creates an energy leak, right? So it's these things that pull at your energy. When if you just went and like, I think it's called Bite the Frog or whatever that book is, where you just go, do it, even though you're scared, and like move through your process, but also like complete that, it helps sustain your energy instead of like fixating and getting pulled away by these different things. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love getting new words for a concept that like it gives you a new level of understanding for it. Do you guys love that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and that's
great.
a good way to describe it. It is it's a leak. It's a program. I talk about things a lot in my coaching group of almost like computer programs that are running. And I think about how, a system kind of, when you're a computer, you start hearing it sound like it's about to take off into space because it's just like running too many programs, like you've got too many windows open. That's how I visualize it, I guess, is there are too many programs running. And so sometimes you'll recognize one of those. And it's interesting. I was coaching last week and I had a lady who sent me a message. We were in a group and she sent me a message afterwards and was just like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I just realized all of these to-do steps that I was trying to do. I'm holding myself back from doing any of them because my relationship with my husband is broken and we're just like living together, just roommates. We're not working on the relationship, but it was just like, she suddenly realized it was everything in her life. And it was just by writing things down. And that's why I say, like, don't despise the simple, easy solutions, right? It doesn't sound super complicated, but how often are you doing it? So,
well, like Nicole said before, she goes, we'll give you the simple path, but you might not take it.
Right?
So true.
Yeah,
true.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's one of the tools that I use with people. We do all kinds of things, but yeah. What else do you want to know?
I mean, tell us how else? So here we go. Here's my question to you. How do you, I have two questions. So, because I remembered this from before. So when you're going through this mind mapping process and you said you go to pray, is part of that surrender? Like you're kind of like giving it to God?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
For sure.
That's what I felt.
I had an experience last week in my business where I was experiencing disappointment and I had a failed launch, like a complete flop. I thought I had everything on track. I thought everything was going great. And then out of nowhere, we had this complete flop. Okay. You know what? I'm going to go be even more vulnerable. It was 2 flops. I've had 2 back-to-back launches that just, and I'm like,
so like no sales, or is that what you mean?
One sale. And it just, I don't know, like I had everything going for a couple months. And I was like, it's happening. It's, it's happening. Oh, we've got all the steps in place and we're only going to scale from here. And then, and so I've been really exploring that and being like, okay, like what's happening here, blah, blah, blah. And finally I just stopped last week and I literally laid in my office floor and just bawled my eyes out, like just released it all. And afterwards, and like I cried, I came to God like a child. And I was like, why can't you just let me have this? Yeah, I mean, and I intentionally was like, this is like, I'm releasing this. I'm giving it back to God. It's not in me. I'm a tool. I'm a vessel. This is what I believed I'm meant to do. Like just all of the things.
Yeah.
And then afterwards I stopped and it was like, okay, number one, am I okay? Yeah, I'm okay. Did it hurt? Little. Yeah. Lot. Am I okay? Yeah. Do I still feel like I'm doing what I'm meant to do? Yeah. Am I willing? And that's the key. Am I willing to keep going? Am I willing to feel it again? Yeah, sure. Buckle up. Let's go back around, but that's to me on the entrepreneurial journey, that is a part of it. And if you're not willing to sign up for it, you will be disappointed. If you get caught up in that toxic positivity, you will. And then from there, I use this technique. After I've felt all of this, I looked and I said, okay, there's some obvious things here that I can do, like there are parts of this that I'm really obviously still learning on. So go back, learn again, review, start over. It's not a big deal. I have all the time I need.
I love it. Another thing that I do, just to add on to that, which could help to kind of get yourself, like once you felt all the emotion, I call it like unwinding resistance. Like, right. I like writing things out, but also doing all of those steps too. Like I actually put, like, I'm on my office floor a lot. And I just, even before the summit, I'm just like, God, use me. I know I'm not in control. Just channel through me. Like I do that all the time. And like it's just that surrender, because we're not, I believe, and like I said, if whoever believes what in here, like the universe, God, source, whatever you believe, that he is my CEO and he's telling me what to do. And so when I try to control and force and make things happen and have those expectations, I find it doesn't work. But when I just open up and I surrender, that's when your field opens and things can flow in for you. So another thing that came through when you were saying that was like, how can you reframe it, like Nicole would say, of like, what did you learn? I had a sale, like celebrating those things to help move you from those lower levels to a higher frequency, so like kind of rationalizing to your brain and journaling out, like you said, I had a sale, I learned this, I have a pipeline now of people that, maybe they don't buy now, but maybe they buy 2 months from now or 3 months from now, because there's that reciprocity, right? Like you're giving. And even though it's not meeting your expectation, what else does God have in store for me? Like that's another great question to ask your brain. So it just allows that opening, that expansiveness, rather than being stuck in that, just like the lower frequencies of like guilt, shame, fear. And it absolutely, you have to feel it. I agree with that. So just other like little tips too.
Yeah, no, and that's super helpful, because that like is the logical next step, right? After you've processed that emotion and just like release it, you're so much more able to look at things, what's the word, more logically, because I did have a sale, and not only did I have a sale, that sale paid in full. So I offer a payment plan versus a paid in full. Yeah. She paid in full. It was a big deal, and it made up for, like, money over time, made up for the sales that I didn't get yet. So now I'm able to say, okay, like literally we're fine. I got the money in the bank that I needed, so that part's fine. And we're able to still move forward. Like God provided, and it's going to be okay. And we just keep going. But you can't, I just don't think that you can move forward until you experience and allow and be okay with the disappointment, the overwhelm, the negative, the hard side of it.
Right. Because if you numb out or you just keep going and you're like, oh, all right, well, I'm just going to keep going, you're not processing. Again, like you and Nicole going together was the perfect, like, segue together to have you both speak at the same time, because it's kind of overlapping in some ways, but it's true. You have to be able to process and feel it, even if it's uncomfortable. And I've done that too. I've been on my floor. I've had, my dog got bit by a German Shepherd, And I was bad for like a couple months, and I was vulnerable about it because like everything that you're saying is so true. Like you have to be vulnerable with your audience. It's not always peaches and cream or, rainbows and unicorns. It's being authentic with your audience, and that connects you to people, right? So yeah, I celebrate you on that. This was such a
Yeah.
great conversation. Go ahead.
Well, the thing too that comes out of that, and so that was last week, end of last week, that's where I was. What came out of that is, like Nicole said, like I can't remember the words you gave to it, but you can't go deep with someone until you've been deep with yourself in that way. So literally I was able to coach on being willing this week. That was our theme of the entire week in our program. And so we talk about mindset. We do a meditation every week. We talk about nutrition. We do a lot of things, but we talked about being willing and able this week. And because I just experienced that last week, it was like immediately I was able to apply it. And because I had truly experienced it, it resonated with everyone in coaching because, they understood, like they'd been there in their journey too. They were there right now, like things are hard. Thanks for admitting it. Sometimes things are difficult.
Right. And I think
I
that
feel like
shows.
I'm Debbie Downer though.
No, that to me, like that takes balls. It takes balls to be, vulnerable and to put yourself out there. And like a lot of people won't do it because it's that fear of looking bad. Like we all have that. We want to look good and be in the best light. And it doesn't always happen that way. Like disappointments happen. And so the more that, like you said, and like Nicole said, the deeper you can go with yourself, the more you can meet and hold people in the space as a coach to be able to walk them through their transformation. Cause you're like, hey, I've been there. Bless your heart.
Yeah. And last thing I'll add to the conversation, you mentioned the word freedom, and I know part of my story too is that period of suppressing everything, just everything, all the things, I was like, had to be good Christian girl. And so I was either like always perfect, or I was spinning out, like wild and free and whatever. And there was like no middle ground there.
Yeah.
It was really rough. Anyway, so for me though, that going between freedom and like extreme freedom, no rules, versus suppressed, whatever. Man, I just totally, my train of thought just completely derailed.
Oh, that's okay. Are you talking about like the black?
Yeah. No, I'm back. It was because I wasn't willing, or I had no tools, no framework for experiencing those emotions. So I just had to suppress any emotions. And then it was either suppress it or
extremes. Yeah.
Or extreme, or cover it up, avoid it with all of the wildness.
Uh-huh.
So yeah.
No, that makes so much sense. And what I'm hearing you say from that is like, you went from, and I can relate to this too, being, suppressed and being perfect and doing the right thing. And then a part of you wanting to rebel almost. Like, I think that was my inner teenager. I can relate to that. Like, well, fuck you. I don't want to do what you want to do, So it's doing that inner work that helps temper that, to bring it more into balance, where you're not on either like the black and white thinking, and it's more authentic to you because you're actually allowing yourself to move through and digest those emotions. That's what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, exactly.
Beautiful.
Yeah, just being authentic.